Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
Today we're doing something a little different. We're diving into a collection of conversational English snippets, like real-life chats about everyday stuff. It's like we're eavesdropping.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, and picking up some language tips along the way.
I think that's a brilliant way to learn,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
By listening to these authentic conversations, you're not only picking up new words and phrases, but also getting a feel for how English is actually spoken in different contexts.
Exactly. It's like a secret window into the culture
Right.
and social dynamics of English speakers.
I like that.
So buckle up because our first conversation
Okay.
throws us right into the middle of that age-old debate, village life versus city life.
Ah.
You know, the classic grass is always greener scenario.
A debate that has probably raged on for centuries.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And this particular conversation really highlights the contrasting values at play.
Yeah.
It's not just about the practicalities, but a deeper reflection of what people prioritize in their lives.
Absolutely. You have one person who's all about the peace and quiet of the village, the fresh air, the sense of community.
Right.
You can almost hear the birds chirping when they talk about it.
They even talk about how people in the village seem more genuine.
Yeah, more connected to nature.
Yes, but then they admit that village life may come with trade-offs.
Oh, sure.
Maybe you don't have access to the same amenities or career opportunities.
Makes sense.
It's that classic trade-off, tranquility for opportunity.
Exactly. And that's where the other speaker jumps in.
Okay.
They acknowledge those village charms, the peace, the slower pace, but they counter with this energy, this buzz that comes with city life.
Yeah.
They're all about the opportunities, the diversity, the constant stimulation.
Right.
They even use the phrase city lights and bright minds,
Oh,
which I thought was a pretty cool way to put it.
That's a great example of how idioms and metaphors color everyday English conversation.
Yeah,
City lights and bright minds.
I like it.
That evokes a sense of ambition, of intellectual energy that you might find in a city.
Totally.
It also hints at the cultural assumption that cities are hubs of innovation and progress.
And they're not just talking about abstract ideas. They get into the specifics.
Oh,
Like access to better education and healthcare, a wider range of job options.
The practical benefits.
But they're also honest about the downsides of city life.
Yeah.
The crowds, the noise, the pollution.
And that honesty is important.
You're sure?
They're not romanticizing city life.
Right.
They acknowledge the pros and cons, which, as we know, is a
Uh-huh.
super useful phrase, meaning the advantages and disadvantages of something.
Definitely.
It's a great example of how English speakers often weigh both sides of an argument.
Right. It's a balanced view. And what I found really interesting is how the conversation ends.
Okay.
They don't try to declare a winner in this village versus city debate.
Makes sense.
Instead, they conclude that the best choice ultimately depends on individual priorities and preferences.
Yeah.
They even suggest that ideally you should experience both village and city life
Oh, wow.
to truly understand the differences.
Now, that's a thought-provoking idea, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Imagine having the opportunity to live in both environments and see which one resonates more with you.
I know.
It raises the question, what do you value most in a living environment?
Such a great point. And that's what I love about these snippets. They get you thinking, exploring different perspectives.
I agree.
Okay, ready for our next eavesdropping adventure.
Let's go.
This one's about something many of us can relate to, getting a pet.
Oh, fun.
But as you might guess, there are some differing viewpoints here, too.
Interesting.
We have one speaker who's a bit hesitant, expressing reservations about the responsibility that comes with pet ownership.
Okay.
They're practical, pointing out things like allergies, potential messes, the time commitment.
Makes sense.
Right. It's not all cuddles and playtime, is it?
No, it's not.
There's a lot to consider.
Right.
But of course, the other speaker is ready with a counter-argument.
Okay.
They jump right in, talking about the emotional rewards of having a furry friend.
Huh.
They even use the phrase unconditional love,
I love that.
which really captures that special bond between people and their pets.
Yes, and they highlight the benefits of companionship,
Huh?
stress relief, even the positive impact pets can have on physical health.
I believe it.
They even talk about the joys of training and properly caring for a pet.
Really?
It's almost like they're presenting a case for responsible pet ownership.
Totally. It's like they're saying, yes, there are challenges, but the rewards can be so worth it
Yeah.
if you're prepared to put in the effort.
For sure.
And that brings up another important aspect of these conversations.
Okay.
We're not just hearing opinions.
Right.
We're also getting snippets of advice.
I see.
Those little nuggets of wisdom that people share in everyday conversations.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
How advice giving is woven into the fabric of these conversations.
Yeah, and it's not always explicit. Right.
Sometimes it's subtly embedded in the way people express their viewpoints.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And the advice in this pet conversation is pretty clear.
Okay, what's that?
Do your research before taking the plunge.
That's good advice.
Don't just jump in because you think a puppy is cute.
I know, it's tempting.
You've got to consider all the angles.
Well, sure.
Now, this next conversation takes a bit of a heavier turn. We're diving into the world of breakups. And this one is particularly tough.
Because it involves infidelity.
Yeah.
And you can hear the pain in the speaker's voice, the raw emotion.
Right.
This isn't just a casual conversation anymore. It's a moment of vulnerability.
It is. It's heartbreaking, really. And as a listener, you almost feel intrusive.
I agree.
Like you're overhearing something incredibly private.
Yes. There's a definite shift in tone here.
Yeah.
It highlights how even casual conversations can become incredibly intimate when people share personal struggles.
And that's where the language itself becomes even more interesting.
Right, because it's not just about what they're saying, but how they're saying it.
Exactly.
The way the friend responds is a masterclass in empathetic communication.
Absolutely. There's a deliberate choice of words and tone.
Yeah.
Phrases like, I'm so sorry to hear that that's awful. You deserve so much better.
Oh, yeah.
And he doesn't deserve, you really stand out.
For sure.
These aren't just casual expressions of sympathy.
Right.
They're powerful validations of the speaker's feelings.
It's like they're saying, your pain is valid and I'm here with you.
Exactly.
And it's interesting to note how the friend avoids any judgmental language.
Yeah.
There's no blaming the person who was hurt.
Right.
No questioning their choices. It's pure empathy and support.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a great lesson in how to be there for someone who's going through a tough time.
It is.
And beyond the emotional support, there's also practical advice woven into the conversation.
Yeah, like what?
The friend says, time heals all wounds.
It's a classic.
Which is a classic saying, but it's also a powerful reminder that pain is temporary.
Such a good point. It's like they're saying it hurts now, but it won't always hurt this much.
Exactly.
And then they go on to say, you're strong, you'll get through this, and you'll find someone who truly appreciates you.
Right.
These aren't just empty platitudes. They're genuine expressions of hope and encouragement.
And they're strategically placed.
Oh, how so?
Notice how they come after the initial wave of empathy and validation?
Yeah.
It's like the friend is carefully building a bridge from pain to possibility.
Right. It's a beautiful example of how language can be used to comfort, support, and even inspire. And it makes me think about how listening to these kinds of conversations can actually help us learn to communicate more effectively in our own lives.
Absolutely.
By observing how others navigate emotionally charged situations, we can pick up valuable cues about tone, word choice, and the power of empathy.
I think that's brilliant.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners? Well, maybe it's not just about learning new vocabulary words, but also paying attention to the emotional subtext of conversations.
Yeah.
How are people using language to express their feelings?
Right.
What are the subtle cues that convey support, encouragement, or even discomfort?
Because ultimately, language is about so much more than just conveying information.
I agree.
It's about connecting with others on a deeper level.
Yeah.
Building relationships and navigating the complexities of human emotions.
Beautifully said. Okay, let's shift gears for a moment.
Okay.
The source we're diving into today also emphasizes the importance of actively learning vocabulary from these conversations.
Which is such a valuable skill for anyone learning a language.
Right. It's not just about memorizing words from a list.
No.
But understanding how those words are used in real-life situations. It's about building a vocabulary that's both rich and relevant to your everyday life. And they offer some really practical techniques for doing this.
Oh, like what?
One that stood out to me was the idea of keeping a language journal.
Oh, I love that idea.
Yeah.
It's so simple yet so effective.
Yeah. I know, right?
It's like creating your own personal dictionary of words and phrases that resonate with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So imagine this. You're listening to a podcast, watching a movie, or even just chatting with a friend in English. And you hear a word or phrase that catches your ear.
Okay.
Maybe you don't know the meaning, or maybe you've heard it before but never used it yourself.
Right.
Instead of just letting it slip by, you jot it down in your language journal.
And here's the key.
What's that?
Don't just write down the word itself.
Okay.
Write down the entire sentence or phrase where you encountered it. That way you capture the context, the nuance, the way the word is actually used in a real-life setting.
It's like taking a snapshot of the word in action.
Yes.
Which makes it so much easier to remember and understand.
I agree.
And here's another cool tip they offer.
Okay.
Try using the new word or phrase in a sentence of your own. Don't worry about making it perfect. Just play with it, experiment, see how it feels in your mouth.
I love that.
It's all about getting those words off the page and into your active vocabulary.
Yes.
It's like taking them for a test drive. And don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Right.
In fact, mistakes are a crucial part of the learning process.
So true.
It's like that old saying, the only way to learn to ride a bike is to fall off a few times.
I like that.
And speaking of learning, they also mention the importance of paying attention to pronunciation.
Okay.
They suggest listening to recordings of yourself speaking.
Oh, yeah.
Which I know can feel a bit awkward at first.
I know, right? You can feel a bit strange hearing your own voice.
It can.
But it's such a valuable tool for self-awareness.
Yeah.
You can hear those little nuances, those subtle inflections that make a big difference in how you sound.
Exactly. It's like holding up a mirror to your speech patterns.
Huh?
And you can also focus on the physicality of speaking, how your mouth moves, how you use your breath, even your posture. It's like a workout for your articulation muscles.
And it's so true. The more you practice those physical movements, the more natural, effortless your pronunciation will become.
I think so.
It's all about training those muscles.
Right.
Just like you would train any other muscle in your body.
Absolutely. And they even suggest trying out some tongue twisters.
Oh.
Which can be a fun and challenging way to improve your pronunciation.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Don't get too caught up in trying to sound perfect.
I agree.
The goal is to be clear and understandable.
Right.
Not to erase your accent or sound exactly like a native speaker.
That's such an important point because ultimately your accent is a part of who you are.
Right.
It's a part of your story. And embracing that individuality is what makes language learning so enriching.
Totally. It's about finding your own voice, your own unique way of expressing yourself in English. So with all these great tips in mind, what does it all mean for our listeners today?
Well, I think the key takeaway is to be an active listener.
Not just a passive one.
Right.
Engage with the language.
Yeah.
Pay attention to the nuances.
For sure.
And don't be afraid to experiment and play with new words and phrases.
Right. Make the learning process your own.
Exactly.
Find what works for you and have fun with it.
I agree.
Now, before we move on to our final conversation, there's one more point from the source that I think is worth highlighting.
Okay, what's that?
They talk about the importance of immersing yourself in English as much as possible.
Yes. This is crucial. It's like learning to swim.
Oh, yeah.
You can read all the books and watch all the videos about swimming.
Right.
But until you get in the water and start practicing, you won't truly learn.
Exactly. So surround yourself with English. Listen to podcasts, watch movies, read books, find opportunities to chat with native speakers.
Right.
The more you expose yourself to the language, the more natural and effortless it will become.
It will.
Now, are you ready for our final conversation?
I am.
This one takes us back to the world of relationships.
Okay, but with a slightly different twist. This time, we're listening in on two friends talking about a friend who's having some trouble in their relationship. But it's not the dramatic breakup kind of trouble. It's more about those subtle communication breakdowns that can happen in any long-term relationship.
Exactly. It's those little misunderstandings that can fester and grow if they're not addressed. And this conversation offers some really insightful glimpses into how those issues can arise and, more importantly, how to start tackling them.
Totally. So to set the scene, one friend is expressing frustration because their partner doesn't seem to understand their need for some alone time.
Okay.
They feel like they're constantly being pulled in different directions, work, family, social obligations, and they just crave a bit of space to recharge.
And it's interesting how they articulate that need.
Yeah.
They use the phrase feeling suffocated. Which is such a powerful metaphor.
It is.
It conveys a sense of being overwhelmed, of having no room to breathe. It's not just about wanting some quiet time. It's a deeper need for autonomy. And personal space.
Right. And it highlights the importance of recognizing and respecting those individual needs within a relationship.
I agree.
It's about finding that balance between togetherness and independence.
Absolutely. And the other friend responds in a really thoughtful way.
Okay.
They don't dismiss the feeling or offer a quick fix.
Yeah.
Instead, they listen attentively and then offer some gentle advice.
What do they say?
They say, have you tried talking to them about it? Sometimes people just don't realize the impact of their actions.
That's such a valuable point.
It is.
It's a reminder that communication is key in any relationship. Sometimes we assume that our partner should just know what we're thinking or feeling.
Right.
But that's often not the case.
No.
So we need to be explicit about our needs and expectations.
Exactly. And they go on to suggest some practical tips for having that conversation.
Oh, like what?
They say things like, choose a time when you're both relaxed and can really focus on each other. Okay.
And use I statements to express your feelings without blaming or accusing.
It's almost like they're coaching their friend.
Yeah.
On how to approach this sensitive topic in a constructive way.
Yeah.
And they even suggest practicing what they want to say beforehand, which I thought was a brilliant idea.
It is, because let's face it, sometimes those difficult conversations can feel really daunting.
Yeah, they can.
Practicing beforehand can help you feel more confident and prepared.
Totally. And I think the biggest takeaway from this conversation is that it's okay to ask for what you need in a relationship.
I agree.
It's not selfish. It's healthy. And open, honest communication is the foundation of any strong partnership.
Couldn't agree more. So we've journeyed from the peace of the village to the heart of the city.
We have.
Considered the joys and challenges of pet ownership.
Yeah.
Navigated the complexities of breakups.
Right.
And explored the subtle dynamics of long-term relationships.
And along the way, we've uncovered some fascinating language nuggets.
We have.
Practical tips for improving your English.
And maybe even a few insights into human nature itself.
I think so.
But here's a final thought-provoking question for you to ponder.
Okay.
Do you think listening to these snippets of real-life conversations can help you become a better communicator, not just in English, but in any language?
What a brilliant question to leave our listeners with.
It suggests that the skills we're developing here, active listening, empathy, the ability to decode nuanced language, are transferable to any communication context.
Exactly. It's about tuning into those subtle cues.
Right.
Those unspoken messages that shape our interactions.
For sure.
And maybe, just maybe, it can help us all navigate the complexities of human connection with a little more grace and understanding.
Food for thought indeed. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of conversational English. We'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration.
See you then.